wani asa ye hoya enka ne afi wani asa na fite de mojaduro umojaduro wo hia we no nya kwansusu asam a we ya Adom natural tonic pebi no nom Adom natural ma mesta ne capsules bi ma ye bedu ho dance pa na je se wo gina wona so ankasa enti nunum bi na tumi bo adwuma ne ma mo apiafo kodbo nwanyanya wa chesi oba ne saa unya na 1 minute 23 seconds na wase na na me yenyencha ya first one ntia etobo second wase ma ne ni adaje no Adom natural ma mesta ne capsules na kwabo adwuma na nkogu nwani mase no oba so no Adom lady care capsules ne mesta ahimfie ho akeka woni nyina betu ase ma ho ato ho ma na fita bi tagu ya na nkadi akira nyenya bi sa no a won so awa fiti krom haw no eye Adom lady care capsules ne mesta ne beje dependable herbal home na de sa nu papa ya bedwa so sanso ana DBS Industries Limited say hey kopem ze bronya dano bronya 31st busumi omni de twato bedru ne de wa wasi wo dan adru ba bi e woso ogboso no DBS for madam for oba ba ye free estimate amount kire wo san chance type a wo pe na kire na de type a wo pe wo mbe estimate nyina ma no sa de chance na begu dan so ma free wanye o kapre edwe nkoto chance wo ba bi ma carpenter ngwaju sikanni Franco Trading Enterprise say phones, accessories, laptops, printers, the open beyond woman di biaba, charger, hands free, bibia omuobi. And also crowd and chair name what the Franco TV say go ye what the aba. For crowd yaba Franco air condition, yea, a when yes in other 1 or 2 yanibia, 2 pays, papa toa, Bora Franco, Roxy Slim only did shady moon, or head office and what then any kita home. Kawachako toothpaste, and over to me a sre, and no baby akasa, I your baby I ham and afar. This one moon canu jina brane. Oh, yes, I sabi, ya na madam bi wonu ma na oba no pe mask de ahye. Wa kra wanza wo ko wash mask. Wan fa Kawachako toothpaste and you wo se. And if you wo se na nyi wo se achi na mu no ekura eha ne nyina emfiri ho. Wonso a wosia ye ko no fagitwiri wose onwie ba ko na se wose na frase ye fita wonso so asabi wonum nka wo no ebetu ase ama wo atumi ato sanwuma ku ada ama na ekura mu abrane ema mede kasebo anwumre mede esomwo kwami kule na bogwansa na no ma me Chelsea man wose na 32 jai wo mo ahye 32 ene na waji yellow wanse blue no Abraham live for Facebook no YouTube wa na ya African na dem ya tubu live sanenso se kwasi agimo pambo yesemufu esi wahine yesemufu panyini na me amede nsam ne somwo no mesibu hia me a eya frame Anokyewaaba Adwoa sewa afen nsam no nkyeremu no memfantoa so emawo ye frinchemu ne nyina ase ewo ye o my Ghana ene South Africa wo mo atumi aka wo mo ho bom ena wode kokobonsam ekwama World Trade Organization na se wiase amansa nyina no dwedie ekubatan se wosrada COVID-19 yi ba ye amase amahodo nkanka bibrem ase ane ense da mo aye ho no ye dwedie ho nsam aye bisi basa ne ye di nkan COVID na se konso ogina kwantia na eno so krada nche amase dwedie no sete no ano wache asa bole ganuaka wontumi entinsi de etia bio wo mo se kasa no wo kyese empanifo mo ani na ho no nya hwehwemu fa COVID-19 ase na ewe fufura yiniti eno no ho protocols no ho nsam ne sei ye ne dai ayensa hohoro ya ne mask se ya na se wo se emia protocols no emu de to so miensa wo se wo mo nso so wo ye vaccine na se mpane ne de ba no wo sra de animanim ya mpanifo hwe na akade ahodo de mo sabe ya ne hyew so mbetumi aye mpane na ba na obi anya bia wo na COVID ya benya ma ahodo nyina akom 192 countries ewo wiase nyina no COVID na se atumi atu Ghana mampanyi na nadodan kwa akufo ado one Serwaa mafoza ya wono na ye South Africa mampanyi ne Ghana mampanyi na je se wo mode sansem ya tudwa e de ato World Trade Organization no nuanyum se wosrada wosre anya bia no se de COVID abeha ya bibre maman no enka be ye kura no a wo ho enka aman hodo ne nwumako o mo ye mpane abre ya ye wa bibre mu ase no ka wontumi tetete nioma bi so yi tuo bi mfiri nioma bi buoso se bi obetumi aya wo moka bebre no watumi di abre o man hodo wa bibre mu ne yaso anya mpane ni bi na ya wo ne ntem so.
The resilience of the business community and your ability to sustain your businesses through these very trying and difficult times. A critical condition for the recovery of our economies is clearly the successful rollout of COVID-19 vaccines and the continued adherence to the measures and protocols that all countries have put in place to keep our people safe, our livelihoods intact, and our economies functioning. While more than 220 vaccine doses have been administered on our continent, only 6.7% of Africa's population is fully vaccinated. This is simply not acceptable, and it is also not enough if we are to revive and rebuild our economies that have been made fragile by COVID-19. Equitable access to vaccines is clearly the best way to mitigate economic, social, and health consequences of this pandemic.
Any akwatie South African man penny Serwaa Ramaphosa na enwachi no na Ghana man penny His Excellency Nana Addo Akufo Addo adu show boy adoga guy ado wonyini da na naso gina simpie so no se na serious I won imagine pe said ya woka no sa pepepe na me tumi gina mu na mapre bi dia ma me manfo sanse sempanifo tumi ahwan ye ka ene niam bi a wode kra ebe ye nnuro na firi so anka be ma nnuro ne ye no be kontem na nkaka ye wa bibre mu ase no ye tumi anya bi ne ye nyina ya wo bi.
In both your country and mine, as well as the larger continent of Africa. Key, of course, amongst them is the fight you have been leading for our own domestic production of vaccines, and the call you have made for some emergency treatment of the TRIPS agreement as far as intellectual property rights to manufacturing is concerned for. It's one that we have our strong support. We ourselves have made a decision that we cannot in the next round, and we're told that we have entered the era of pandemics, that the next round of the pandemics, that we're going to be dependent again on people who hoard vaccines when the world needs them.
Ghana man penny His Excellency Nana Addo Akufo Addo ne ekwatie yemfiri wono moy na ne nyina mu na pomodi mu nsem mu an ekwosoa ejina ne COVID-19 mu ensem ye konfinfi mantem no emu empanifo wonom ene so pomodi hu nsem so wonfinfi mantem ne tese Central Regional Health Directorate no wo modi adestrade eto yen sentrefo ena afi empanifo agodo mu ka bi wo ma wano aduru bunu mu afi nananom atrankonwa ene asofo empanifo wo ma mu nyina sa wosrada so we panyini sa na anya kwanya bi se wugina simpios na de nsam utudwa enkasa mfiri wodom nko abra wo manfo kokose COVID-19 panie no wodom nko na wonko wo na wo konfifi mantem mu ampanifo kasa kire mu se o manfo dodo no aye wadwen se de na no ada babro ne ka se beba ene ene chepo ye de be se wobati ena mpanie azu ye de wo nkrofo abati na se ne se no a ena Ghana ampanifo akwaje abaje se Ghana fo ewo enti ama konfinfi mantem mu ankrofo bi se hwe mo se step ndo mo nyi o omo ngopa ne ne nwa ne kina. The Central Regional Deputy Health Director in charge of public health, Dr. Kwabena Sapon, and that is Shadia to be any say. So you'll be any social media crowd. I do want to my yen a month for TikTok, ni Facebook, you to me alive in Ibi. No what to a month for almost rada. COVID and paniano, a necessity. I was a war be entino. When you are quenya near Bohun de Rosa Kowaka, was a baya dianwa. Yen abaya your combo no be able to me. I will be a free so no be a home to be a tono.
To make sure say sa panya na nkofo mpeso moje yebetimi no mak na yetimi a chem say panya na ye won anye panya e de yade ebeba panya betimi abon ho ban against COVID-19 enti ana ye free anye say ye ton panya enti ehun hia say yebetimi ayesa yebetimi edisa suban no enti no ni major challenge ye go panya no ye nim how and even big countries like the US and Britain say nkofo dodo a omuwu aban enya panie a betimi abon ho ban now say okay panie na me wo no 666 nti menwo you know me jipa they say o kasa na chese umpe Ghana for yi because aban said de ni say obebo yi nyina ye ho ban akutia bibia ebetimi ama nkofo bebre ewu.
Central Regional Deputy Health Director in charge of Public Health, Dr. Kwabena Sapone, and Yetianuachi Regional Health Director, Dr. Akosua Wusu Sapon. Wadoso Kasan watch say, Oban Finfi Mantemwa no money adaso say, and Canipia million bako and afei and Pem Ahanson 1,700,000. And Obetima one and Panias baby a yadrus woman you convince Mantemwa and your mama to me a 1 year by 400,000 per. And it's 1,300,000 there. One more was soon near why say one was here. One more dear con sorry. One more dear call a lorry station hoodwo and your mosque hoodwo a fear hoodwo in us was stress or man for Bunyagua. One person about a hydrogen pa.
Now, your share vaccination, I say March 2021, your shall see a man crofua. Omutanya Yari be Omo Yini, any Omwa, Omo Yariwa, it is say hypertension, diabetes, sa in Yariwana. You shall see the Maum. Now, you really say the Biomama, the whole population will be so be a major vaccines. Now, Yama, and Central Regional. Central regions, they say, yeah, vaccinated and nipa more than 400,000. But yes, yeah, vaccinated nipa bear 1.7 million. Now, yetimia bibi a friend herd immunity. Yetimia boy na ya home by free area no. Now, abine partners now boam yenya COVID-19 vaccines. Sansa ninti sa bosum we a friend in December ye declare ne say COVID-19 vaccination month. Bosumi. Sa bosumi Central region hanom your hospitals your clinics na your teams so honom a omo pani ni bi.
Wei aye Fifi Mantam Regional Health Director yo Dr. Akosua Wusu Sapon ne ene yetie ye no na yemfiri hɔ no mo ye gusu agina COVID-19 nsensam no emu. Lawyer Felix Ntoso wono no woyemranimu ni pa wo memu wosua ngoma akwakire. Ena woka ye nche kra ena soafo abedi akire akwansra konsam so makokraku. Any hater from Northern some to John Watcher, Bronya, ye would we obi biara COVID-19 pania one war, yes, I cracked and would ya dance as well will be a windy be and yet. So a move jabia, to me quasi be. Sans a woo, we say yes, you know, walk off a airplane near with us a boarding passway. Was here never boarding pass, I did be event to be a say, and a lawyer say, I say, a concern some concern rebium. Na anya biano. Adianse say na ma omo kwan so omo sabra no wose sam krankra nwuma kuo bi no omo sesa bi wo mo ye dwumadie bi ate saa de ne omo abetuma fa to omo so agina gate sem ba cha card we besne ko na mom sa aban ene bia wo ye dwumadie ate saa kakraka de a obi ani wo kwan so betumi akase ma wo kwase bi sanse de di nkan empane ne amukura no reni padodo o mayi mu a over 30 million no mpane ye nwane nu saa enti abano kura no ya we se nya de se by now panie na na se by bronya bre na obi atumi awo mpanie ni bi enti wontumi nyina hɔ no mo nka se mpanie no sa ababuru so ɛna obi nwo ya na ende wahunu se ɛya so de na ye dipa no tie no wotumi twe na so na mo mpanie ndi aba no aye wo no kura no enso nipa no nyina enti asoye no ntumi nyina hɔ mfa mra nsa ne nsam se wo ngo panie ma nwura ha ma nko se sa de ndi eni mra bia mu
obi ba na ba o man mu no say 5 million no man no so population ye 30 million na just definitely no ebi mu lenwu so wontumi ye vaccines no available and e be by this time na just obi a or qualified say as a so by this time they na just nipa no nsa aka na say nipa no take vaccination so wonya na sa dia. Why do you deprive somebody say, men kwaha? This of course, beyond a private place. So who feel say, who can say, Obi awa won't COVID vaccine, man, mahwa. Who feel in your public place, and you have every right to do that. But public place and as a public gathering, I say so be at Nikobi. Now. First of all, 1 year COVID vaccine available to the extent that they can be now. Obinsa, me and war vaccine here. Now, there was a war vaccine, you know. Christmas mutu na obi men kwa where you are infringing on a person's right. And I think that it is beyond their right. Say COVID restrictions na ye ko mu nyina no. President na esa na man nyina. And powers is beyond the minister.
Eno no, and wachi no, and a lawyer Felix, and to society to John Watcher say. And Rasha began a crunch at Uncle Setna and Shem Rackety be assess, Amra Weno, and a Vanya one who by say, I composed you say you was secretary, Wumpo was a war. Enti asena sem na wo Canada chese ase na nse da ni nyina so bia se na kamra se bedwa na kwa asetena na COVID-19 vaccination o ma se ho mra na abaye wo secretary wo man mu se wanwo pane ani bia aha wo nwura aha wo mfa hanom a ho no na tourism ministry metuma gina so de aka na asem na asem mra bia ni wasa ade ne o ma Ghana fo nwura mo ho
ye wo mra bia ya she parliament a pass mra eye the taking of COVID vaccine and as vaccination against COVID-19 compulsory se me sika da bank na I can wear nose masks. What you are saying, you can insist to say, men washing my hands. But what mean country me say, men produce the evidence of vaccination against COVID. And some of my baby give me a misika. And the can COVID vaccine available to the extent to say, I say by this and no beyond second. So say, COVID vaccines are about my muano. What can you know about my saying? It will be all willing to be vaccinated, but on access to vaccines. And then the way it is about being found to the extent to say, nipa 30 million I want my money, and I say adult population of about 50 million. By this time, there no be answer can be bind me. Yes, you can't enforce some of these laws.
Wey aye mranimni ewo omanyi emwa chesenidi ene lawyer Felix entoso no na chese wo tu aban for say sa asem no mka kan de omonko no monsan emra biem. Everyone mana yanko ahonedie mu ensem mu yakwa kopie mu ewo Sutifi North mensi ni mu wa hafo mantem no emu. Water system managers na sempanifo wono mu na ehwe se ensuwasu apa ho nsem betumi agina brane ewo ye Sutifi North mensi no mu no wo mo se se de nema bi koso ho no mo no ha adwene pa na wono ma ya afia no nhia mu town hall meeting yibi na na yemensi no assembly ni na yeye na water sanitation and hygiene emu mpanifo nyina asukopie mu ho no mu bi na afi na nanom atrankodwa mpanifo a edidwuma wa assembly no emu mu mpanifo na afi mpanifo a hwa apomde ho nsam so mpanifo ho masu ho nsam so mpanifo ho bambo ho nsam so ayi asukufo ankura nwumaku ahodo wo mu nyina tumi kotwa hia wo ye town hall meeting wase na jumadi eno ase no ena ntotro so jedu water system manager Michael Jewonu opanyini ni Adom kasia ma na bofa twinko ba no che se se wohwe mo pa no ampanifo atumi abo mo moden a wo mo apaw ekuo bi eye water sanitation and hygiene hu ekuo na ne nyina ye se behwe na mpotem ahodo no ahonidie hu nsem betumi agina brane na sabi ankosone engu omanfo nsuo mu ma omanum nsuo a che se wudro abamu na nso so oba ntotro so ni jedu mpotem wo no ma o kan nyina bo na se Sutifi North mpotem wo no ma asa ahonidie hu nsem mo ntese dogo bi no abe se de omanfo sisi jo mo na egu bonte basa no asa ye da so wotete bire no mu emu ani nipa nyina ndi obekokwa brane no afi ne no aboye mfita duku kwanche pe no ye ne ho ye wo wi ate champon pepedie wo anase de obenya bia brodua kwa ne kro de atwi to wi no asore no na ekro no ne wura firi se wura sasiri be betuma nante akofro mu nsuo ma wo mo anom eti hadwen pant nei opanyini yi Michael Jewonu ade ade hwede ne kokobon se me kwa momanfo a wono mo sampotem ho nyina se ahonede hu nsem mani nyina brane sanse sankoyi a ebe nante akogwo mu nsuo mu wo mo ankwa ene beda sanye mu
sanitation aspect eka nsuo no ho no de ase no na perform kakra ti so ko communities ahoro no ma obi se ball ahoro do sisi ba bia obi atimi tutu ball agu ba bia ope afi nso se ball containers ne ye ma ye me fan ntem na agusua afi communities a ye wo mu no so emwa ajanan ne nipa ajanan de friend open defecation no so ebi edasoa ekoso ni nyina betimi akwa akomase programs ayaye wash program no ebedu ba bi na atosini it is assembly no betima boya omfo madwen ko sa side no na fe yempe fund a betimi e dia support na sanitation aspect no so yetimi apage mu te say the water na edu na pepepe
eni ekokotie yei so kopiem wa Sutifi North Mensenu emu a opanyini a wono na woye water system manager Michael Jewono na enu achi no na hafo Kenya se number 1 wo mo esaman hene na anim dankwa wono soso na ne agya wotena mu setitena ni wodwumadie no ase eno ne Adom kase ama na eboni samya sare twetwe nkomo no woche se wasrada wasre sade mpanimfo ne ma hodo agu akwan mu no se wash dwumadie no ebetuma agina brand ya na se water and sanitation hygiene initiative no se betuma agina brand ya gese omodi hwehwe ni nyina eso wasese de omodi ensuo bedi dwumomo hwe ni afen so obi anhwe na anya bi agya na bi onya bi oni fie se be ya obi eba enkokoto baabi koye ne ho ye mankofo hawo emro manfo a omo mpotem ho
ewo a certificate no for her efa wash no ho ene se ye nananom ni development partners ene assembly no aboka ayama yen titiriw ensuo WC no omasisi ama yen no yesra se obi ani ne huni wontimi ntua ne nsuo ka ebe yen twan se da bia na ese de bill bre wo kotua ka na assembly ni timi nyesika emfa ntre sa adwuma na omudi ma yen na yebesre so se toilet ya omobo de asisi ama yen ewo miamia ni nyina no yen ne ehuni sabi mpreduasa enye se obi chichire black polythene bag no de koto WC mu obi sabi tetia ne yusu brodua no ene wo biem ye yusu pepe de wo ne wo biem ene toilet roll ene yusu emfa baha enkonkotum sabi ema no a mokọ afichire no enye se wo yi upad na wo de akwa koto WC nim a be flash enko ekira na asi ade we
eno no ene a yekokotie yi eye se okopiemu ewo eye hafo Kenya se number 1 a saman hene nana anim dankwa nene ena yede asommo no yemfiri hono mo ena yenkonsem fufuro ne so ni nyina ya pomudi mu ensem emu so for panyina wada Resurrection Power and Living Bread Ministry International ano eye Dr. Owusu Ansa na panyine de afutuo ane ensem biato eye Ghana ba nim se wasrada enkwada ya no mo yare eye cerebral palsy nesa nkoda bu wonu abewo ba o se ne akoda idie sabi se de nante etie ne nano achi mhwe baabi sabi mpredua so mesre mani ma fa nche ye frɛ wo mu nsuo ba asa akoda bu wonu kro nya mfie be edu sete no a wontumi ntrase na wo de bi wa moamo no ho da ya nche obatan no wontumi kro nya no ho nkoye adwuma de bia no go wachi ase sa nkoda ne bi asam na meken na wo se ono my Ghana ntwiaro baabi ne wo no Dr. Owusu Ansa wonkoye wawurawura Ghana babia ya wo hwe sa nkwada no a wo mu wo sa haw ni bi no wo sese de abatan ya wo ma wo sa nkwada no ekọ haw mu no ano de pa nze ko ba se aban yi na ni wo sa nkwada na se abatan no wato o ma jeje mu wo so abatan bi be wo ba obi ne wo mo be kwa wo so be pese wo de akoda sabi mpredua wo di dem ana so wo yarefo be fie nanso nya de ye pani ye ntito de bi a na Yakopon hwe wo a wo akoma a wo betimi atete sa akoda no a na wa che wo bi tisata akoda na ba wakwan mu so oba tan ya na se emwa bi a masanso bu ma wonfie bedu wontumi nkwadwuma de bia na akoda no asini nan so tie wasa aba de sese ya hodo ogu akwan na nka aba cha omo wasa ama no ene anya bia bosom so nka kakra bi kwa na nka ja wotumi de ama wo mo enkoda no so yere sabe yakọ ene wo mu nuro ni ade nyina wasa nka banifo hwe na wotumi ehwe afide atie biem akoda mpa nka wote saa na wasa nka aban tumi twotwo wo mu din na bosom so a sika kakra bi ene esesare da obese salalake ena so de beto ama ne de bedia na nko akwaje na ban ho no de abeto wo se ba se be ma akoda no na so oba tan no a wawo akoda no oni yaw pi obefi se he we kura no me wo no yi aban ekura me mu abrane wo de se me nyina to dwa abra emperifo mo da Elkana Ministries etimi kaka wo mo ensase a wo mo nya niam kakra se wo mo de kwa akoma ye bia ya emperifo asi wo fa na gibia ehwe nkwada wo mo sa ya de ni bi e wo dansoman.
Of course they know what they have to do. As our leaders in the country, they know what to do because they know what is there. But a near mind is from the back of my and no saba. But the assessing como a bomb de ye juma the beboa yenia mane ye manamo et it is saying. I know the amount from cerebral palsy in Kurano and the amount from I just say the gayism and the lesbianism and which is unfortunate. But I want to appeal to the leadership in this country that because they do that for the children and their mothers and the cerebral palsy. I know it. Mrs. Tabako, I will be Britain and who couldn't send yes several no wobɛka sɛ wonya kora wobɛwo bia aka ho
na sɛ wondwen de sɛ bia economy ne nti na
ɛnyɛ economy.
ɛno no wei deɛ yɛayɛ deɛ mu sɔfo panyini a wɔda Resurrection Power and Living Bread Ministry International Dr. Owusu Ansa ne ɛna yɛkɔti a wɔtu mpanimfoɔ ɛfo no na ɛno akyi no ɛna sɔfo pɔn a wɔno no wɔda Elkana Ministries ano ɛyɛ Ernest Adati wɔno nso tu abata nyinaa wɔn wɔ mma a sɛbi wɔn ma no wɔtaa yadeɛ ni bi ne sɛ wɔsrada Nyankopɔn nim sɛ wobɛtumi ti no wɔde ama wo tore bi ayɛ na den tore bi akɔkɔtɛ so kora bi kora wonna nanso Kristo na wode ne ma wo no betumi ama wo ahoɔden ne ho anidaso a wobetumi di aye sanse ukɔfu social media sɛ ma be say my journey with autism ono ne basa na na fom enso nei no kakrakra otumi ekɔ nanim basa sa nkɔda no so nyini a obehu ne sɛ obo wɔ na wanto wo no mo antwene.
The first time me hu bi you master ko ba ko ho but this first time I'm meeting hu how difficult my life is here now the need as even the government impo your attention to me bass and kofu wesu emi makɔ Europe man so bebre some of we no aban ni kura kom ho e chen kwala na yira e dom begu orphanage home ni other places and because obi wa oba na be man na nyim na be man na adwene jam look at the difficult oba na become akɔhwa kwala nsa hwe no ho ontimi nya adwuma inability to move when you no progress into I think sir we need to advise parents no and it's see and say you trust a lot of medical checkup and then call the IJB and Kuni about two about time on yana warren so for say you did my yes and say be ya that chibino unkolari man be yet say o my adeswa amaye we say yakopa mo frɛ nyina bisa
eno no na kyerɛ wei ayɛ sɔfo panyini a wɔda Elkana Ministries ano Ernest Adati ne ɛna yɛkɔtie ne mfiri hɔ no ma ne yɛnkɔkua adwuma mu ensɛm emum agona westmensi no emwo no wabra mpanimfo bubu sesen ya no ano mu edi ɛyɛ akuafo nyina da ne da yɛtɔ so ne fa yɛtɔ so aduasa enso 37th Farmers Day no ewura wono no watumi gina mu pa sɛ best poultry farmer senta kraboa ene dabo akonfirm krokrokoko enkokɔ a maami wa yɛ adwuma ɛyɛ Sandra Elikrim Bensa na maami na agona Westminster ni mo no wodi sa ɛcha no de hyɛye ɛna wɔde adesrɛdeɛ ɛto Ghana abanim sɛ wɔsrada wɔsɛtro bi pa na sɛ nkokɔ wuo pa ti so nkokɔ buo ni mu a ya na ahometio ahomete papa ebasa akuani bosi a waje nyina osika tumi hye sanse etiso obo wanza akokɔ ne konda na ti saa beba na sɛ onya muni to so ade be kyena foforo mu na to wɔsesa aba ne pɛsɛ dwuma na ɔmo yɛ ne gyina yie tumi nya nkokɔ bebree ma ɔmanfo a ebedu me bi kura hu nkɔ hia sɛ ebɛkra nkokɔ firi amanhodo so because aman na ɔkɔkra nkokɔ firi hɔ no no abani ne magu akwa mo mutumi yi ankokɔ ne bebre madako so buku be mpim dukura no asetre no ano ebi wo honom enu nti na amane yetumi kra containers bebre fra amahodo so de ba sa abani di sika wura eye takrabo yan mu a omanyi mu so yenso ebetumi aye ne ye akra bia firi ha se kra de akwa amahodo so akwa akoton wo de sansemi to dwa no che se omo ha kakra so omo wo mu biem no eye kokoduane no omo toma omo se dei ne bo ne kwa na ekosuru nti bewie penka ne nka akokɔ ne mikuro ma sofa dwom duwa ma 35 cd 40 cd wɔso hwɛ akokɔ aduane ade ba ma akokɔ na di pa bosome 9 bosome num ni mu a na ɛsɛ wode gye saa 40 no onye ye ka ho bi na amadwa no ɛbo ayɛ den
sisia ye wo nsio problem ene light sisia ye ni light ye ni nsuo ɛna se ye pede ye mamboa no nsuo a ye de gallons kokrom ekofele ansa na ya ba ɛyɛ sa mama ho kyerɛ pie adwuma na ma adwuma na nya nkoso sisia second light mbo so ohia kanea sisia ye ni kanea ye use to how to call it lantern ene generator no so ye current ansa na ye tumi de ahwɛ mboa no. Every day we spend like 50 to 60 cedis on fuel alone for this bed. Where the yes ban in many where the yes the sedere tuning mambo no be boan yes you ni can assembly yes reno yes no ombra no be boan me first time in anyamya Adom esanye abaso body anyamya Adom wode ma yanka menya bibi free assembly holder. My first time in here. Nyamana bane na nukweni nyamene mensanke bida.
eno no na chese we eye Aguna West Mensinu emu awura wono na ntakraboa yen nyina no pedifo hia se womo eye best farmer no na poultry farmer womo de ema no Sandra Elikrim Bensan ne de na de srede ne yekotie ewo ho no no na yemfiri ho no na from messages ba komiro amode aba Facebook menkenka ne nyina emewuja kede rally say yakopon kwa na betumi age o my Ghana na afe na na je kwode so mama jo meje so otie free hani eye Bono region Bego and then Nanom Information Center. Okay. Dr. Abazamu was not sure. Good evening. Chewon. Was it remaining few days here? Kayon, Yakopon and Shraye. Now on share so no for him traffic na some dreamo. What ya a year Chris Lloyd, Honomo. Would you see Menchia MP Nelson Cheme Brekum East and MC Kofia J Brekum Municipal was it testing news and Casa okay and Dr. Babazamo essay what ya honorable Chris Lloyd with the radio incoming organizer okay na neje kwadia makan wo de no Elizabeth Kele say se Ghana ankasa no say yere ye ho ya ankasa betuma ye nua ne kora ye die Abdullahi Fati wo yi obi ano e wo ha Adelaide ntia mo aso hwe life free USA o chia ne maame Lucy entwi wo achim asuom beposo okay o maame je so still alive or Kenzie say o mayajo ye je so o say asare say mpane no enya force e wo Dubai UAE wo Dubai okay e bia ho no mo nhye ye nko man de yenso yanse ye nso enko no Abdullahi Fati say Erade akoko tu we cerebral palsy besi no no I don't know ye enkoko yare enkoko yare esi yesta say kwada omo wasa yade no na fom kra ewuja makan wudi ni damte Augustine so de ne dia bo so hwe free safi bodi okay na akwe okay mate me da sepa na Abdullahi Fati was Europe the autistic fee better there okay na say wo mo awosa nkwada no aban no so wo mo asa erikuse kwada de ase wo se wotie pa wada de ase city ya da say Thomas do chain so de ne de aba wo se o ope matare ne ni minwi no ye ho wa ye kese me da se pa wa Dr. Makan wo de ebinti mensan ensi so ebiem Abdullahi Fati was saying not about you too much. Okay, I love you too, Abdullahi Fati. And our Prince, I'm watching the Nediaba or say or trophy atonsu. Was say I bind them one home or then say Anya Biano. I feel gonna be the Nanka or Hamunche word you're watching the Watima war, Yampania war, may Musabe a covered no, and no bet to me a brassy war, may money amahodo so na Nedia Quadian corner. Okay, Nedia or the Bain and Wana. That's what I was saying. Mo messages are more the DC national song. Sana watching when some would be ya a sea, ye chagu yeno. May the better someone answer no yenti weber.
O person who don't platform area that what we are send a Sibia, the Biara, maybe the Biane for radio no transfer, Adom FM 106.3. Ubeti same papa show, Adom FM 106.3. Yeah.
Jim FM. You don't know Stone Boy talking is here, me a seman, Adom Kase boy, in a mood, dear, na ye, boy.
To the Biana Biasin Sam Dawson, a pessimistic TV as someone, yes, Adom News.
Benin, Cotonou, Adom FM, so you are far.
Adom FM, it means, yeah, I mean, that is it.
Yeah, I don't know.
watchi mu nsɛm ahodoɔ bi esi yɛ na mede to aso ama wɔn na watchi mu nsɛm ahodoɔ bi atwa gu yɛ no ne sɛ kan kwanhyia bi esi yɛ ɔho ɛwɔ gendabuo ɛyɛ kumansa kwan no so na nya agorɔ baas no a emu kyɛ mienu ɛso nyinaa paayɛ no ɛno asɛm na meka no na watchi mu so no na da ba ko wɔ mu a yɛde asi wɔ no sɛ International Anti-Corruption Day ntino kɛtahyehyɛ proyɛ dream die ne kankan ho nkɔmmɔdie yɛdi na mampanyi sɛ ɔbɛhwɛ na nneɛma bi atumi asesa fa ho na watchi mu na Ghana mampanyi kɔ na ade to dwa no wɔkyerɛ sɛ ɛmfie kakra no aka ne deɛ mu Ghana fo bɛm wɔ sɛ I will not disappoint my years left na Ghana fo bi busa sɛ na kyerɛ sɛ ɛmfie num na wadi ka di no ɔno a wɔgye tum sɛ na disappointment ɛwɔ mu anaa na watchi mu na beto odwa sɛ asɛ panifo bi kasa sɛ mmarahyɛ badwam asɛ ayi no mmarahyɛ badwam akyia mehene no wɔyɛ ayɛ bayɛ asɛ kakra enti no sɛ nneɛma ntenetene a ahwɛ yi mmarahyɛ badwam no deɛ bɛkɔ so wɔ hɔ no no ɛnyɛ na watchi mu aso dom kuma ba no dani so wɔne speaker yɛ sɛ wɔno no wɔte adwa mu wɔne no ne nya agorɔ kra we ka na we aka ɛwɔ mmarahyɛ badwam deɛ nkɔmɔ na no mu die mɛsɛn sisu bie mama afi time chuku na afi nsɛm ahodo bi atwagu na watchi mu no memfa ne nyina ensomo sɛ no sɛ nwumako ne de dada no a dependable herba home akɔfa Adom malaki Adom natural tonic Adom natural ma mixture ne capsules Adom lady care capsules ne mixture krabi mu DBS Industries Limited say free break akɔpem 31st December ye free wo more dance wachewo Franco Trading Enterprise phones ne accessories papa fie no wo makache na Kelcha toothpaste say happy smile for bi twitwiri wo sen na afi yɛnhwɛ na watchi mu no ɔho yanti asɛm de kra na watchi mu na ne ɛyɛ bus yi bi VIP bus ni bi ɛho kokokokokoko ya na wo free gendabuo ekokumasa etumi na abraho ekwan ya bus ni free ka kwan no so ekosi nwura mu ekopem dua mu emadua ɛwan na pampam nyina atotwe na kyese bus no wo mu kyemu bienu a free driver side anim ho no mo de kopem bootu ɛsoro ni nyina pagya free so sei na afi ohun se seat no nko na kyese esisi card mu a esi ho ana kyese na nya agro na wa bra esi ye na mo ho no nipa nkuru na wu ye ene ya ma ne bani Rebecca Antibeki na ntoma nya agro mu aduru ho ebo ye mu nkyeremu a na afi ne afiri sa akwakoda kura me ne sola mansi police commander ASPD Graft J atwetwe nkomo na wo kyese ɛhyɛn na firi nkran ya wɔkɔ wa na afa nipa aduanan ne sɛ 40 passengers na anim hɔ no mo ana nkwanhyia ne si yɛ ne de nipa nkron na firi mu na nkwadaa mmiɛnsa na mpanimfo ensia ama wɔn mo ɛsesa mu ne de kogu wa regional hospital mukura baabi a wɔn mo ɛde emu eguo sɛ wɔn kɔ akɔhwɛ na wɔkɔboa no na abusuafo a wɔn gidi so wɔn ade hyɛ nam saa kwantempɔ no totumi abɛhwɛ so wɔn de hyɛ wɔn no wafa mu no akɔpɛ no krabre na adechi ya enese yenya ne ntie se nipa baako esan efiri mu ka ho ma san kwanhyia no wasi na watwi mu no wi ase no na nipa du na edam so a wato anananom ewo ensie do ewo ho na yemfiri ho na watwi mu nso na da baako ho no ma yeyi ase ho no se International Anti-Corruption Day ene eda no wi ase ama ahodo nyina so ye hwe bebia yedru ene he se ayi katahye proye dream de ne kankan ya ku Ghana ese Ghana sika echese sika afehwo a katahye ne proye ko no ni botom kura no etumi bo man ho brank ensa nkobo bosia na no mo no na na dan kokufo de nsem tudwa no wo kyerese ono na ba ne de no nti na oba ya wo power special prosecutor wo na kwasipita de odi kan na ase na wo twetwe na ase na kwasipita ba ku ya wa ba kisi aja be ye wo bo adwuma obebo adwuma so sanse wo ya brantie na se de adwuma no moja se wo ni mu no obebo adwuma pa na dan kokufo de Ghana mampanyi di tudwa no wo kyerese onim sekata ase ne de ekoso enu so nti no de ne emagu akwan mu se wo pese otu ase na wonim se wo mo nso akata sentence abayiri wo mu komu no special prosecutor wo de wo ye hwehwemu na afei no agagefo ne lawyer fo aboa no na se koba se nipa no sabi bubo wo a asotwe fata no wo de ama wo wo de sabi nyina atudwa e wo nkrabubuni mantem International Conference on Anti-Corruption ye koso wo mamu no kyese na ban no ye de di nkan ya kyese kata se de wo mu abohu duku pa se ene wo mabohu Brazil nyina wo mu ko atu ase afiri o mayipo.
You say begins at home. And that is why so far, every single alleged act of corruption leveled against any of my appointees has been investigated, by independent bodies such as SRAJ, the CID, and in some cases by Parliament itself. It is not my job to clear or convict any person accused of wrongdoing or of engaging in acts of corruption. That is the job of the courts. My job is to act on allegations of corruption by referring the issue or issues to the proper investigative agencies for the relevant inquiry and necessary action, including, if required, the suspension of the affected official pending the conclusion of investigations. That is exactly what has been done since I assumed the mantle of national leadership.
Inasmuch as public officials are required to declare their assets upon taking office as a tool of fighting corruption, I'm, however, of the candid opinion that existing legislation on corruption relating to the conduct of public officers in Ghana appears to be inadequate to deal extensively with public office accountability.
Ghana man panyina na Akufo-Addo na nuachi no ena obobo so niema hodo amudi egu akwan mu sabaye akataase proye ene drimdie ni kankan a sone Ghana sika wura ba bia omunhu ano no obetumi atuase.
What I have done is to show you that my government has fought corruption not in words but in concrete deeds. We have shunned mere exhortations and showy denunciations of unproved corruption. It has been a holistic approach. We've protected the public purse, we've made institutional reforms, we have enacted additional requisite laws, and we have resourced more adequately the accountability organs of state. A memorandum of understanding on information exchange and collaboration in combating corruption and crime in general has been signed by SRAJ, EYOCO, Parliament, Office of the Attorney General, Ghana Audit Service, the Ghana Police Service, the Financial Intelligence Center, the Narcotics Control Commission, the Internal Audit Agency, the National Investigation Bureau.
Ghana Mampanyi His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo enono na yegusu agina International Anti-Corruption Day no emu. Jumadi enu ase no oho ena akisi ajaben wono no ye special prosecutor do otosu mienu wo membe say de ordinary say wo di ne nkwe pa opanyini nyakwanya agina simpie so no wo chese ono na so ye no ene ayi ni kuo no a aban akekera ma no say wo fa nhwe ne wontu kata asase no wo se he niam ahodo bi o mo hwe ebi ene say wo ye nipa wo mayi mu na wakatri a woje ene wayi wajapade a wo no ase ntali wasisi abrosan ne niam so wakatu ye 3000 bosome wo se kura wotumi frawo ebe kire mbe bia nya skasi sa abrosan no ene loto na adi ya be ka kire no na ene wo hu se wo so wum afa wo se special prosecutor ne officer police ne bia wo ye hwehwemu na wo ba abuse no wo do sa be ka na na sa wo be ka sa tie ne betie tie nanim eno se wotumi gina so efra wo na tena ye ho sa special prosecutor epe asema firi ho de ye hwehwemu na asem no wo so wo te so wo se kura no ye corporate wotumi chew wo ma adamude wotumi chew won so ajaja wote wasem so wotumi sane ma kwasa bia wo kwa command bibi na se adane ne judgment no wo se kura no obetumi afre wo etu wase so oyo bia wo sa su ni ban ni mu a twohu firi ho sade wode nsem tu dwa no yentie bi.
An inexplicable gap between a person's total wealth and their lawfully acquired wealth. Then we also have bribery in the private sector. We also have abuse of functions. And we have embezzlement influence. Then quickly we have obstruction of the administration of justice. That is to say, the use of physical force, threats or intimidation, promise, offering or giving of an undue advantage to induce false testimony, the use of physical force, threats or intimidation to interfere with the exercise of official duties by a judge or a law enforcement official, and where a public officer refuses or fails without reasonable excuse to cooperate with the OSP when information is requested or lawful assistance is sought from that public officer, or where a person fails to comply with a lawful demand of the OSP, where a person fails to produce a document or provide information requested by the OSP, where a person fails to produce property or currency declared to be seized by the OSP, where a person conceals or attempts to conceal property or currency liable to seizure by the OSP.
eno no nti niam abema OSP atumi afrɛ wo aye omu hwehwemu bi no abobɔ so no eno achi no odi tudwa eno wo kyerɛ sɛ ono na so ye no bra obefa adwa no na corruption case ba ko na wo court jesi eno no wo hwe na sɛ enyina so bia sɛ dani won ma ban ne betumi e de aboa sankrofo ne fo we ye yi ma yare ga ne ba ko ya no ka ho yi edisa case no wa dismiss we yi afiri ho no mo kra na ogusuwa ya cases ane gu nyina so wa ye ho review nyina wie akase obefiri assembly nase.
The OSP has completed a review of all the alleged cases of corruption and corruption-related offenses before it. Currently, the OSP is investigating 31 active cases, and it will, in due course, commence the prosecution in the courts of the cases it considers probatively strong. There is no case commenced by the OSP pending in the courts at the moment. I inherited one court case, that is the Republic against Mahama Ayariga and another, which I discontinued in October after a careful scrutiny of the available evidence led me to conclude that the Republic will be unable to prove its case on the standard of proof required in criminal cases, that is, proof beyond reasonable doubt.
Ne krakra mo no ena kisia jabe kasa no che sa ba nyuma ko muntie na muntie ne ye sese wose ene January bosumi ni mu no se ye wada ho ma ye yesi ho no mo se ye di anti corruption day no sese o mu be di nyuma ko ni nyina beto eye corruption barometer so omu wia no ma publish adwumaku a sika enwunu fa mo nsa ase kese na ne ye de by December 9th de ne de mu nyina mu din abebo ho de nam fidie no so ntie ne adwumaku a wo na corruption no ugi mu hene ne ase wa henche ne afra wo no office nti obi anhwe na wonkyere ho efiri ho.
From January 2022, the OSP will institute, as part of its Pressure for Progress drive, an annual Ghana Corruption League table to assess perceived levels of public sector corruption in the estimation of experts and business people. In aid of this, public agencies will be ranked against each other on a corruption barometer, and the results will be published every 9 December. We have commenced discussions with the local chapter of Transparency International, that is the Ghana Integrity Initiative, which is going to be our main strategic partner on this program. The OSP from January 2022 would also require all public institutions, departments, agencies, and companies to prepare and submit to the OSP integrity plans intended at assessing deficiencies in their regulations, procedures, policies, guidelines, administration instructions, and internal control mechanisms to determine their vulnerability and exposure to corrupt practices and the prescription of curative measures to manage such susceptibility to corruption and corruption-related offenses. Let me also state that the assignment and full dedication by the government of a 10-story building at South Ridge, Accra, for the sole use of the OSP, and the steps taken by the Office of the President and the Chief of Staff.
Eno na chese kisie jaben special prosecutor ne ene yokotie ne niema wadi gu akwan mu atu ketasase ebino no. Na watwe mu aso ne beto odwa. Na mwe no ya African Forbes magazine. Na wonom ede adansidi a kire se Ghana mampanyini. Oba bibire mama ni nyina mu a wono ne panyini a kire se obo na baso a eyeyie. Na we no panifo na tu panifo mo baye. Na panyina no odi sa ekuo no otu mo babebo mampanyina baso no Frederick Van de Viver. Ena panyini kasa no che se wo mu eyi mampanyini esanse mampanyini no wadnema hodo bi agu akwam de dinka Ghana beyond edi se yensa beso ye chi adwade ne entam ye kuru wankwa ma hodo so ngo stress ka medie eno sa agina sie na mampanyini atuma gina ma na eba mu no no ka ho bi afi wo se de wo hwe manfidi dwuma ho nsem watumi akoyie apomode ho nsem policies odi agugu akwam ne educational policies enwuma so free education ya de wo se ka ho bi o no se bibre mama ni nyina chese panyini be no obo ne ho made che mampanyini afi kura de wo se covid-19 se de si be yan Ghana ko mu pa ya Ghana da so gina ne na so lockdown mu kwan yo fa so man krofo aduani ni nsuo ne no mu se panyini we panyini obo na ba so a ye pa.
Forbes Africa to actually present to you the African of the Year trophy that we have here with us. Basically, I mean, we took that decision based on your visionary leadership, especially based on economic policies. I mean, just to mention a few in a nutshell: Ghana Beyond Aid, how to develop Ghana with its own raw material, adding value to the industries, etc., etc. I was here when COVID started, and I got locked down here. I mean, I'm usually based in Lagos, but I got locked down here for 6 months. Every week we were watching I call them the fellow Ghanaians speech, that was actually extremely precise and gave a lot of clarity about the different decisions making that needed to be done during the pandemic. So many other policies like the year of the return.
And no way penny ya wonu na wodi African Forbes magazine ko ya mpanifo tu mo bebo Ghana man panyin abaso nanim Frederick Van de Viver na no achi na Ghana man panyin so kasa no wache se ni mfie miensa ya aka ye one disappoint Ghana fo bi mu o ana me na man kan ye I say I will not disappoint in my years left na se mfie no aka no nya de so be disappoint Ghana fo one disappoint Ghana for kra said there were ye nyuma papa no sa pepepe no be koso anu de akwa wiye pa.
What can I say? I'm extremely honored, very flattered by this award. And the way you've presented it shows that you've been looking at what we've been doing here in Ghana. And perhaps for me, that's the most comforting aspect. Because a lot of the time when you're in the midst of doing things, you don't know to what extent other people are taking note of what you're doing. But it appears that you have a very good grasp of all the various things we're trying to do to develop our country and move it forward. I have a maximum of 8 years to try and make an impact on this country. So it's been something that has been a very important inspiration for me to get as many things on the ground as possible.
Ghana man panyin na na reda kwa kufuado ne ene ekotie ye no. Na watwe mu aso na ebeto odwa se. Adam kuma no kasa no mo chese hwe. Said ye first deputy speaker. Wono wo gina mu se my Ghana achiame hene esan se ask babe ni ho no. Ya wo ya said ye adwuma na wo ye no ye bias. Dom kase na fa no wo gina no. Se panyin pa sa ba betena ho na se na no ku ada de wo ye de bi no na watwe mu wo ye na so be sa ye ne sa ne enka jabeto mrashe bedwom. O sinka chaos ai enka basa ye ne besi wo mrashe bedwom. Na sanerigu mrashe bedwani ABF seni eno na ekwasi paka etwetwe nkomo no wetwe se ebre ne so mo kwa kwatena se no na afa won se wo mbo so mo panyini hu ne se na anu de enu asi ye no a ekwafament mu wase ba se panyini asesa na dwen no se sa kwa anu aso na obefa so na ani asem na se de wodi tie dom kuma no a ene enkoyi kra mrashe bedwom.
It's one of the illegal things we are talking about. Even before he counted himself. Have you heard a speaker ever in the annals of our history, a speaker saying that I count myself with the members on the floor?
It does never happen. Do you expect him to preside over today's seat?
We don't, because he's so manifestly biased. We don't expect him to come to the seat again.
If he comes to the seat,
he's not a true speaker.
So if he comes to the seat, what happens?
That's what I'm saying. If he comes with the biases and the confusion that he will get the same confusion on his hands. I want to assure him, if he continues in the manner that he continues, he will get the same confusion in the house. Well, we are going to the chamber. When whatever comes, we'll meet it as it comes.
Na enwachi no ena Adom kuma no ekasa no wache se e wasa mpanimfo tumi hwehwehwe deputy speaker eye Joseph Osewusu sede na anu ada wo ma basabasa esi wo mrase bedwom wie na chese wono se kire se mrase bedwafo no hu so mo ye basabasa nkanka Adom kuma no mu mrase bedwafo no wo mo na ye basabasa ne ntina so twen wo fa emo mo na Adom kuma no se hwe na basabasa ni frase anyo na asase wo na atitire ho ana wo kire ye se wo mpeyasem ana apese odi asem ti ade no chese chia pa wo sese wo babua no achia no abu mu mienu ama na se ekrakra ka wo bi eti se basabasa ya ba wo panyini ne wo no mo fa ho sobo emo wo.
Call on the Auditor General to go and ascertain the facts, and that is what we are doing now. And we can also write officially as the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee to call on the Auditor General to go into that audit.
So are you going to do that?
Yeah, we are serving notice. I will write to the Auditor General.
Eno no na je se ho so ede eno no na gusu agina mrase bedwam na watwe mu na Adom kuma no ba no dani Harry na Idris wono so ne wone first deputy speaker ene come and see wo ka no aka bi wo ka no aka bo so papa we wo kire pa sa na wo twan ma ba bi atukwan no betena konwa no so no ba be kire ye shege pa wo ho sa de panyini si ene ye di ni mrase bedwam no entwa ye kura na panyini kasa no wo che se ase Joseph Osewusu jo wise akonya no obetena so no na na je na sasa se bi o be sesa na akọ no ni favor etina he couldn't wait wo twan ma na ne braso no abaye speaker no sasa se wo se mra se badwa mu nhyehye ye na egu no mu didi dwuma no enye wo betena so ne na abesesa no na akọ wafa na di aboa wo wo se enko yie eti mra se badwa na watwe mu wo mu mienu ene na nya agrokra.
Whether the minority leader thinks that I was not entitled to rule is another matter. But what I'm saying here is that I ruled. What is reported here is that I was ruling and it was interrupted. So it appears that the ruling did not conclude, but it did conclude. That's all I want the vote to reflect. That is not about yes or no. That is what happened. And the record is available. The table office heard the video. I played it out to them when I saw this, that this is the video of what I did, and that is how it concluded. So let the votes and proceedings reflect what happened. After raising issues with them, is entitled, you're always entitled to raise issues with what you think I ought to have done or ought not to have done.
Joseph Osei Wusu Joe Wise, first deputy speaker, ne one na kyerɛ mu sɛ mraso bɛdwuma kyia me hene ne ne ekotie ne anwachi no na dom kuma ba do de ne hari na adrusu ɛne wa mapanyini kura no ansi no obowuram no sɛ panyini ɛde ansɛm na aka da opɛ sɛ wɔsesa mraso bɛdwamu mmra na ɛne wadwene ɛkwapa na sɛ wɔsɛ wɔde to hɔ no mo sɛ mraso bɛdwam mmra bia ne hɔ no mo a baakofo kɔnten kro betuma gina asesa ne sanse wo si gina ye bia opese ekɔ no na fanti enti panyini se sa na wai na adwere de ne wonko no nsamra bi.
So about somebody's imagined majority outside this chamber and outside the presence of parliament. It is about members present, meaning members available, and members voting. Therefore, I have a difficulty with the directive you are giving the table. And Mr. Speaker, be reminded that I did not invoke any different rule other than what was invoked by my colleague the day before. So, Mr. Speaker, your ruling, let me hear you out, and I'll do what is appropriate within our standing orders and within the 1992 Constitution. But I think that it would be wrong for you to direct people to attempt to tamper or alter what is reported in page 9. Suffice it to add, the table adding that I made reference to Article 102, that the person presiding shall not be part of what constitutes quorum, and the person presiding shall not be part of a decision that should be taken. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Dom kuma ba no dani Haruna Idrisu ne ene ekoti abusua ne nsam yi so ene agina na meetedua sansam amede somo ne na watwe mu nsam so meetedua sa no medi ne nyina esie mede obi bia asem a mo share live on Facebook and YouTube African na de metu mu live ena kwa me kulenu wona agina metie ne Chelsea man wono na cheso oboabo nsam ne nyina no ede emamie hyane so semfo eye kwasi ageman opambo ena semfo panyini eye esi ohene entwi yawa mwako matewai medase panso jese yedisi a na chese media makatro say me social media handles nyina ya active wo hwe me Facebook a ya Anokyewaaba wo hwe me Instagram a ya Anokyewaaba TikTok ya Anokyewaaba 1 sa pepepe na awoda pa sonko enko ema eye way a free angel ma bena asabia asenema Akuapem Mountains ose ne ba ewomfie edunan ene ase akra no womfie edunan ene enti na woda passion konkoma no enti no se wuti a no wahunu se ne angel ma bena asabia yo wasenema Akuapem Mountains a womfinsie edunan ene no o ma mese o ma woda pa shonko ena afa wunua panyi Priscilla ofabia o munyina ewehyew eye happy birthday nti awoda pa no ye di si na medo bi aseso otie no hwe bie etwa ne ho wasante manta mu Insure FM 104.5 yedua na masempa 94.7 so far hanom no ya Adom 106.3 wuhia me a eya freme Anokyewaaba Adwoa Serwaa memwacho